Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Denim Futures Conference and Showcase, and I'm sure you're ready for the last section of the day. In this panel discussion, our panelists will talk about what digitalization means for the denim world, as well as some existing implementation and use case scenarios. So without further ado, may I now invite the moderator of this panel discussion to come onto the stage. Please welcome Janice Wang, the CEO of Alvanon. Welcome, Janice. And also, we have our panelists joining on Zoom today, so let's welcome them on the screen. They are Jorgen Sevild, Chief Growth Officer from Bandicoot Imaging Services, and Richard Hobbs, founder and CEO of Brand New Vision, as well as Warren Parker Mills, the CEO of Fashion Metaverse Club. Let's give them a big round of applause and welcome them. The topic of their panel discussion is digital denim, and I'll pass the stage to Janice. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you here. It's a little bit weird me being, the only one on stage, and all three of them of my panelists are on Zoom. But it's a very beautiful day here in Hong Kong, and we miss all of you who are not here today. And for all of you who are in the online audience, welcome. I am Janice Wang. I am the CEO of Alvanon. If you don't know who we are, then shame on us. And if you'd like to go see what we do, our mannequins are in the showroom of the lab over there. But what we also make are digital avatars, and they're digital twins of those mannequins that you see there. They are technical mannequins, and we work with all of the brands around the world on deciding what the size and fit should be. And that's the reason why I get to moderate these digital panels. So without further ado, and if you want to learn more about how you actually use a lot of these 3D things, and because the denim industry does not actually use so much of the 3D kind of side of things. And so if you are just starting this journey into 3D and you want to use it as a tool, but you don't know really where to start, we just finished doing a 3-day event called 3D Tech Fest, and you can actually find all of that for free on YouTube. So we actually hope that everybody will actually take that as an educational opportunity. It's not by us, it's by lots of our friends in software providers and also Harvard Business School, so you can go listen to, real professionals spiel a little bit. But back to us. So first up, we actually have Jorgen, and Jorgen's going to tell us a little bit about more of the digital product creation part of 3D, and we're going to show you a video that he submitted. So if you wouldn't mind showing the video, please. So Jorgen, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, what your company does, and how you actually, how your product actually helps in all of the sustainability things that there was at the end of the video that said reduce the waste? Jorgen? I wonder whether Jorgen actually can hear us. So maybe actually, while we figure out this little technical difficulty, Jorgen, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. How do you, how does what does Bandicoot do? And how do you help kind of reduce the waste in all of this? And how do you, what's your, USP for this industry?
Yes, well, thank you, Janice. So Bandicoot has developed a technology to digitize fabrics. So you have a physical fabric at hand. You're a fabric mill, you're a designer or a brand or a garment factory working with fabrics. And you would like to digitize this fabric to bring it into, let's say, a 3D environment, or you would just like to digitize it to be able to visualize it over Zoom or doing presentations almost like this. Bandicoot's technology allows you to digitize the fabric at a very high quality for use in 3D with just using a camera. So you take some photos and you upload those photos up to our web application, and we turn them into the photos into a 3D material. And so the point is there to make the digital version of the fabric look as true to life and as realistic and as accurate really to the physical fabric as possible.
And why is this actually important? Oh, actually, before we ask that question, how many of you in the audience, in the physical audience, actually use digital fabrics today? One. So this is why actually the denim industry actually has less of an uptake of these digital fabric libraries, right? So we've in an audience of about 50, we've got one person who said that they're actually using it, and probably why is that the issue? Do you think, Jorgen?
Yes, well, I think really what we've seen, let's say, especially in the past few years with COVID in particular, I think accelerating or having an impact on the adoption of digital. We're having more of our meetings and doing more business over the internet and online. And so the reason for why it's more important is, one, being able to present more accurately the products, let's say for a fabric mill, to customers and enable a better presentation. And also, of course, to be able to or allow suppliers to present fabrics at any time that they have new fabrics ready to bring to the market. And the other side of it, of course, beyond just the visualization and the accuracy of the presentation and being able to give a nice digital presentation, is, of course, this new space that I think we see coming more and more. And as you pointed out, few people are working in this space already, but we're seeing definitely more and more companies are adopting 3D tools. And that is then where, with Bandicoot's technology, digitizing fabrics this way allows you to create a 3D ready fabric that you can bring into, let's say, 3D tools, where you can then take this fabric you have, visualize it easily on a garment like a dress, or in the denim industry, a pair of jeans. And we have a dedicated denim product or a denim stream called Indicon, where we have specific considerations for laundry processes, wet and dry processing, the indigo color, and all of these different things that really kind of opens up a new space for simulation and design.
So now that you know what you can do with the kind of stuff that actually Jorgen's doing, because I mean, I'm assuming the reason why the uptake hasn't really been there is because there hasn't really been a very strong technical kind of render possibility with denim, which actually automatically shies everyone away from actually using a digital way of working. But I think to a certain extent, there's actually this kind of leap of imagination that we actually have to take, because ultimately we all have to digitize, and kind of just to elaborate a little bit about kind of some of the ideas around that. I think that's a good kind of move into what Warren does, because Warren, would you like to tell us a little bit about what kind of you do, and do you want us to play we'll play the video for Warren just very quickly? So ultimately, what I guess we're looking at is also, a denim product here. Warren, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do and what that video is about?
Yeah, I shall indeed. First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's lovely to be here virtually. I'm sorry I can't be there in real life. It sounds amazing, and I know some of the guests that you've got there in real terms, so I'm sure you're having a great time. But yeah, so my name is Warren, I'm based in the UK, I'm a Brit, and my business really is more about kind of consulting and helping brands understand a little bit more about this new paradigm shift that the industry, that the internet is taking moving forward. And actually that video was a client that I'm doing some work with currently called Deep Gears. And they have an amazing product which doesn't just work in denim, it works in every fabric category that there is, but their product's based more so along fit. So obviously it's using digital renders to obviously show the fluidity and the way that denim can evolve now from a digital point of view, but fit is really where their product is very, very strong. And what's interesting on that perspective is part of my business is also consultancy. I have other areas of business. I have a podcast that I already existingly run, and I'm producing another one called the Fashion Metaverse Club, which is going to be about this space. But interestingly enough, those guys are looking to develop their business from a technical perspective in an industry which I would love to say we're all part of. And you know, Jorgen, Richard, myself, and obviously everybody in the audience are from the industry. And I think there's a bit of a mind shift that needs to happen there with regards to taking some of the values and the responsibilities and the efficacy, shall we say, of how the industry is at the moment and how it's been over the last few years, and take it into this new paradigm shift, as I mentioned earlier. So that's a little bit about what I do. And that was just a video that I spoke to this client and I said, look, I'm going to be at this event. It's all about denim. Everyone's going to be talking about denim. And I think that's a great example of how things can look in this world. So yeah, really happy to be here and really looking forward to the conversation.
And what other kinds of cases do you talk with your clients about, like how they want to take this a more kind of branded imagery into a much more digital kind of aspect, and how they can use some of these digital assets? Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on maybe another case?
Yeah, I think what we need to understand here is at the moment we're working in Web 2. Okay, so Web 2 is all about content. You know, I'm from an industry background. I spent 35 years in the fashion industry and worked with lots of denim brands, ironically. And you know, I've worked with in real life brands, IRL brands, circular denim brands and such forth. And I think part of the understanding really is how you can get over this storytelling, how you can explain the values of what the brand represents. And I think we've lost a little bit of that over the last few years. And brands are very desperate, and rightly so, to kind of reignite that enthusiasm, both internally within their business and also with the end consumer. And if you look at something like Cone Denim, for instance, you know, I mean, there's a whole legacy around that organization and what that represents to the denim heads in this room. It would be amazing with a little bit of imagination to reinvent these stories and help people connect the dots a little bit. I think there's so much that can be done. And again, I don't want to get too in the weeds around kind of technical words and terminology, but you know, when you start thinking about the utilities of NFTs and tokenization and DAOs and all these things that kind of surround this world of Web3, I think it becomes very interesting for brands because they need to understand, or I believe they need to understand the way the industry is moving at pace, but not to be worried or anxious or, you know, kind of scared of taking that giant step into this new realm, because it is literally the evolution of the internet. And I think at the moment we live in a very 2D kind of content driven world. You know, when you look at social media and such forth, it's very 2D. And I think as we move forward in 5 years time, maybe a bit sooner, but I genuinely think it'd be probably 5, maybe 10 years time really before everybody starts adopting everything. We're going to have more immersive experiences where we're not just going to be consuming content, we're going to be part of the content. We're going to be part of the brand story. I think that's when it becomes really exciting. So hopefully that answers your question, Janice.
Yeah, but also, you know, following on from that, you know, with a lot of these kind of brand stories, I guess a lot of them actually have to live somewhere. And, you know, Richard, I know that you've been working on a lot of kind of making these brands have a story and actually also executing some of these things in some of the metaverses. So do you want to, can we play Richard's video. So Richard, do you want to talk a little bit about what Brand New Vision does and actually what that great forest catwalk was?
Sure. That was actually something we did just over a year ago. I'm from the denim industry, as some of you may know, been in it a very, very long time, been out of it for a few years and totally into this new space called Web3 and the Metaverse. And that's what Brand New Vision does. It helps brands go into this space and helps them traverse all of the obstacles, brings a level of understanding, but it's all about the narrative, the storytelling, the engagement, all the way through the process of creating 3D product, tokenizing it, launching it, and developing both real and digital benefits and perks to be associated with that NFT. Can go into lots of detail around that, but if we're talking about denim in particular, the problem you have with showcasing denim realistically in the existing metaverse experiences is the product has to be rendered at a very low poly count for it to actually be able to be used in real time. So as much as you can create very high quality scans and post-wash as well and post-distressing and develop that and show it, it's actually then very difficult to then use that to a level where people from our industry with our history and passion about the integrity of denim, meaning the weave, the texture, the color, the level of distressing is extremely complicated. That was a demonstration that we worked on with a few partners, like I said, just over a year ago, I believe that was, to demonstrate how you could take a high resolution scan and convert it into a gaming engine. So that's actually built into Unreal Engine, which is by Epic Games, which is the same company that basically runs Fortnite. And there are metaverses that are being built on Unreal Engine, some of which might go live in the next year or two. But they are very complicated and very heavy to be able to execute all of that. So in the meantime, what you've got is these low poly versions like Decentraland and Sandbox and a few others that are in the pipeline. Anything that uses Ready Player Me as an avatar, as an avatar rigging system, which is built on Unity, has a good level of material physics and material render, but it's still some way off before you'll be able to wear that pair of jeans that we demonstrated there in a metaverse type environment. But we know it will come. It's everybody is working and pushing towards that end result.
Do we want to be wearing the same things that we wear in real life, actually, in these other worlds? Or do we want to be? We don't have to. It opens itself to a whole new possibility, doesn't it? And so, I mean, part of the question, I guess, to all three of you is like, what are the big things that you would like brands to just think about when they're even going into having these new storytelling environments, and why is it important for them?
Shall I pick up that one first?
Yeah, go on, Richard.
You don't have to, what we talk about as digital twins. You can actually focus on other elements. You don't have to be restricted by gravity or material physics or even the form of the garment itself. So as much as a lot of people in the digital product creation field strive to create something which is realistic when they digitize it, that's not necessarily the driving force of what can happen in the metaverse. In fact, it's almost the opposite. And I encourage people to think a bit more out of the box when it comes to what you can design and create for metaverse utility or future utility. Some people will be very happy to have a replica of what they own in real life or a version of what they own in real life. But the truth is you can be far more creative. You can use materials and finishes that nobody could afford to use in real life. And you can have things floating and moving around the body in very different ways. So that's the one thing I would encourage anybody that's in the creative side that's looking to move that 3D PC into a metaverse type environment is to think very differently and think outside of the box.
Yeah, I mean, I echo those thoughts absolutely, Richard. I think, the creativity and the imagination is boundless. If you want a pair of jeans made of sky with clouds on, you can have a pair of jeans made with sky with clouds on. And I think, going back to your point there, Janice, about how brands should look at this space, I think, there's a big question I get asked many, many times by a lot of clients and people that I talk to in the space. And, the question is, are we too early? Well, we're not too early. We're early. And there are no experts in this kind of environment. I will go as far as to say there's people with expertise and some amazing people doing some incredible things, but we're all helping each other. And I think this sense of community, I've never seen anything like this from probably when I started off in the fashion industry. Those were the heady days where everyone was full on and making great money, and there was an air of excitement around everything that we do. And I think I'm seeing that now in this digital space. And I think from a takeaway perspective, and I know we're going to talk about this a bit later on, but I think it's never too early to understand and to educate, but more essentially push the parameters of what your brand represents and look at the DNA of your brand and how you can replicate that through NFTs, through utilities, through the community. I think that's what they need to do, or brands need to do. And that will start with, as I say, just educating yourself. Get into these environments. And Richard's point was really valid, actually, because I think the consumer also doesn't necessarily want digital twinning. If you think about the users, this industry, or Web3 as we know it, I think we're in Web 2.5, that's where we're at, but it's being developed by gamers. Gamers are creating these worlds at the moment, and I think we need to take that into context. And actually the consumers that are in those environments, there is a level of how can I put it? There's a level of understanding what is available and what can be done at the moment. And I think if you look at Roblox and you look at Minecraft and Fortnite and those types of environments, we're not all about that identical product yet. I think it will come, but I think that is going to be further down the line. So yeah, that was my point.
So kind of this is a good time to actually bisect the where we are, right? One side is kind of this fantastical kind of metaverse area, and then the other side of it is actually the more the practical actually stuff that you use digital for in order to actually create the foundation, in order to create a physical garment, and they are they're two different things. And I think partially, sometimes I wonder in industry whether we kind of just lump it all together. And when we lump it all together, we kind of look at all the shiny new toys, but we don't realize sometimes that the foundations actually need to be created. And I guess kind of, Jorgen, you probably have some things to say about the foundations, don't you? Because you've been doing this for a while.
Yes, well, absolutely. And I was thinking also off the back of Richard and Warren's responses here as well, I think to connect the dots a little bit and where I see it's important to think, kind of to remember also that when we do work digitally, we're no longer constrained by the same ways of working. So it's not just in terms of creativity that we're constrained in creativity to the physical world in the metaverse. And as Richard has already pointed out as well, it's also just in the way that we're working to make the product. So in our case, and to connect the dots, I think between us here a little bit, and also between the two almost worlds or spaces that you're pointing out, if you're embracing digitally all the way back into production of the physical product, you can source essentially digital fabrics from a fabric mill, and you can design and product develop your physical product using 3D tools and simulation tools to then, visualize how your garments are going to look and how they're going to fit. You can visualize how the laundry and the wash effects are going to turn out, and you can make a digital version of the physical garment that you're making. But the interesting thing, I think, is also there that it doesn't stop there, because now you made a digital garment and a digital product, and you can go ahead and make your physical product from that as well. But then now you can still take that, some limitations that were kind of things we're running into there, as Rich has pointed out, with just the processing power to render something very accurately. Those things I'm sure will be resolved. But now that you have this digital product, you can really take that digital product and you can bring it into the metaverse, or you can bring it into all sorts of other digital applications. So it's really connected all the way back to, if you start working digitally all the way back to the way you make products, it connects all the way into how new consumers and Web3 changes the way we do commerce and trade in the future as well.
And to that end, actually, there are also ways of monetizing some of these kind of digital assets already, if it so is wanting to be used in kind of these digital showrooms that may also exist as a shop in, like, for instance, a Sandbox or Decentraland or somewhere like that. If some brands were to take it one step further and actually open up some of these shops and make some fantastical things, because maybe Richard, you might be able to answer this question. How much money? I think that some of these brands made a lot of instant cash in selling NFT products in their stores.
There's been a few newsworthy incidents over the last 24 months of product launches, and that's fine. It raises awareness, it gets people talking about it. Some of them I would question the actual process and validity of the outcomes of those, but that's for another conversation and probably not something that's being broadcast. But I think the long-term vision is that it will be a very easy process for individuals once the process of onboarding people into Web3, basically meaning that they have a crypto wallet. And at the moment, that's still a relatively complicated process, but it's getting easier. And once we get to the stage where it's almost hidden and you don't even know what you're doing, it's going to be so easy for people to accumulate and share and trade and build a digital wardrobe of their own with products that belong to them. And that's one of the key factors of Web3, is that you own yourself and you own your digital assets, rather than borrowing them or renting them from an in-game experience, or giving all of your data to the big behemoths of Web2 so that they can sell you something back. Here, Web3 is about owning your digital assets and being able to use those in productive and commercial ways. I think we are, as Warren said, it's probably 5 years. I think 3 to 5 years will be a nice transition point where pretty much anybody that wants to be engaged will have an active digital wardrobe of items that they can wear across different metaverse experiences, whether that's social or gaming or communication tools or social apps. I mean, we're building our own social media type stream, which allows people to, instead of showcasing their own products that they wear in the typical Instagram format, but actually dress their avatar and emote their avatar personally and be able to share that as a social experience. So all of these things are happening. We're just one of the companies that is pushing things in this direction. But I do believe if most people in that room will have some digital denim in their wardrobes, their virtual wardrobes, within a short space of time.
And Warren, do you have any advice for brands of, what things they should think about in terms of their kind of authenticity, or like kind of looking for that DNA inside this new world?
Yeah, I mean, Richard points, there's lots of noise going on at the moment, and what is difficult, I think, when you spend most of your days talking to people in the digital environment or in this ecosystem, it becomes a bit of a vacuum, and sometimes you have to step back and kind of get a little bit rational about everything. There have been reports from McKinsey saying that the metaverse is going to be worth $5 trillion by 2030, and 2.6 of that is going to be an e-com. $2.6 trillion. I mean, the potential is massive, but I think for me, what's happened over the last kind of couple of years, 18 months, let's say, there's been some real landmark kind of movement, shall we say, in this space. And I think, it literally last month, Time Magazine, front cover of Time Magazine, and again, it's Time Magazine, but I think there are alarm bells starting to ring in a lot of people's minds at lots of different levels within corporate. And I think brands need to be mindful of that, and I think they need to future-proof their business. But Richard's point was really valid, actually, about how some of the Web2 players have worked. And I think if we look more holistically at our environment as we are at the moment, there are these circles of disruption, you know, whether it is Airbnb, whether it is Netflix and Blockbuster, whatever it is. But I think there's probably people sat in the audience there, and definitely people listening at home, or however they're consuming this content, who will be very much part of this new generation, this new subset of the industry in the way that it goes forward. And I think brands need to educate themselves. They need to educate themselves, and we all need to educate ourselves. I keep going back to that point. And there are plenty of people in this space, and fortunately there is a growing number of people who also have a real good understanding of the jargon and the stress and the heartache and the supply chain and the manufacturing. So I think when you get those two elements together, it becomes quite compelling, because there is a level of connecting the dots, as Jorgen mentioned earlier, and hand-holding into this space. And I think together we'll get there. We just need to be mindful that we're not recreating all the problems that we've suffered over the last few years and literally just taking it into a digital realm, because that's not going to do anybody any good. So that was my piece.
I will actually say amen to the fact that we really do not want to create all the problems that we've actually created in the past 50 years from all of the overproduction that we've ever made. But there is something to, scale. And I think the issue actually that I think Jorgen, and also to an extent, for Alvanon, when we look with brands and we talk about the physical elements of actually what actually needs to get done, there are some real sticking points, because we have not enough scale not enough scale of production in the digital sense, right? And actually then, therefore, this behooves, if we think that the Metaverse or the Web3 part is going to come in a 3 to 5 year period, and you have to future-proof your business, right? Services like Jorgen's, or services, for instance, like my own, right, at Alvanon, part of what we actually have to do is actually help to future-proof those things. And actually, you're starting from a starting point that currently is quite basic, right? We don't even have enough people who understand the imagery part, who also can take the right kinds of photos, or even create the right kinds of 3D garments. And so if you are a brand out there, one of the things that I would actually say is, please, please, please invest in your people. I mean, you need them both to do the digital part and the physical part. Or if you are in the marketing space of those brands, you need to bring in some people who actually understand, who are actually gamers. And we all know that there's not even enough gaming guys to go around actually to program half of that stuff. So right now we're in a massive draw for talent, which I understand tomorrow actually there's going to be a whole other panel on education, which will be talking about what actually these schools should be doing. But I don't think it's only a school thing. I think it's an industry thing. We as industry, we always say, please school, help us do this. And not for nothing, that's not very helpful, right? Because we kind of also have to take them in and apprentice them. So that's my just little spiel for, and shout out for tomorrow's last panel. Jorgen, do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yes, no, I think it's like you say, Janice, also, and to add to it, for let's say for a lot of the suppliers, for a lot of the fabric mills and garment factories, they're thinking about the metaverse already might be kind of almost thinking a bit too far, or even it's more for the brands. And as we've also talked about how there are things that the fabric mills and the suppliers and garment makers can do already today, and it's I would say it's almost inevitable for what we see from other industries. We see that no one really builds a house today without any 3D drawings and without any visualizations, just to realize all the mistakes that they made, or makes a car or other solid products. Other industries have gone into 3D, and I think the fashion industry inevitably will go the same direction, because it's been proven to be beneficial for so many other industries. And it's just about being able to, I think, do it at scale. And I think that's where we're really coming to for the fashion industry right now. We have solutions, for example, 3D garment virtualization solutions like Browseware and Clo and Optitex and Style 3D and so forth. You can subscribe to them online with a credit card and get started easily. Bandicoot's digitization of fabrics is something that process has been associated with having to buy a very expensive machine, a lot of upfront costs, a lot of subscriptions. You no longer need to do that. You can scale that up and you can have it done within the mill for very, very low cost, and you can scale it up so that every fabric mill around the world can do that today. And we can start to connect the physical supply chain with these digital applications that have been coming out more and more. And now we're starting to see this integration around the workflow. For example, like how Denim now has specific workflow challenges that is being worked on specifically in the digital world as well. So I think we're really getting to a point now where the technology is available and it's scalable and it's fairly straightforward and easy to use, and it requires the education part, like he says, to maybe everyone needs to get educated. Through traditional institutions can be one thing, but we can find so much material on YouTube or available online, and you can kind of self-educate in a way. The technology is really, it's there, and there are people that work on this every day that are very happy to talk to anyone interested. So I would kind of encourage everyone to get in touch and to talk to us about this and to embrace digital and not to be afraid of it, because it's quite amazing to see what kind of benefits it can bring.
Warren and Richard, any takeaways for the audience? Like one-line things you want them to remember?
I'll go first, Warren, if you don't mind. I think when we're talking about the journey of digital product creation and where it can eventually go, as we've all been talking about, you've got great assets when you start creating digital products, is what else you can do with them. And when you start doing some research or understanding a bit more about what Web3 actually means and what it has to offer, it's not just the design process. It's linking in your marketing, your advertising, your CRM, both in the real life and virtually. Just as a general heads up, we're a partner with CFDA for their 60th year anniversary project, which is launching in December. And we're working with quite a few high-profile American brands creating digital versions of their product for them. And we're on calls with literally the most diverse team of people you could possibly imagine that you would not normally expect to happen. So you're going from creative to marketing to internal process teams are all on the same call and all getting really excited about what the potential of this is. Because it's not just about, right, how can we create this 3D product and make an NFT out of it? It's what else can we offer to that? How can we bring it into this wider ecosystem of Web3 and engage not just our existing customers, but a new group of customers that they have to attract through these channels. So I would just, my parting words are, it's early, but don't be late. Get involved, educate, learn, and do something within this space.
Warren?
Yeah, I echo that. I mean, education has been, Jorgen mentioned there, that was my lead as well, because I think it is all about educating ourselves. I think there's some tremendous people. LinkedIn is just a glut with some amazing people doing some amazing things. There's organizations, there's DAOs, which anyone doesn't know, it's a decentralized autonomous organization, which is going to be a part of everybody's business moving forward. I think business is going to look at DAOs. There's one called the Fashion Metaverse Council, which I'm very proud to be part of. So there's lots of people talking about this, but they're talking about it in a way that has not been, it's all about inclusivity. Again, education with inclusivity. I think my last point really is about, just jumping in, getting involved, reach out to people, get involved with other people's projects, collaborate, which I think is absolutely paramount at the moment. Get a MetaMask wallet, get on Discord, because Richard mentioned the CRM system. Discord is going to be the new CRM system for every company, in my opinion. I think there's going to be a shift of how we operate, how we work, how we trade, how we manufacture, how we design, how we inspire consumers and our own teams to go forward. It's so exciting. As I say, I'm 54. I've never been so excited. I missed Web 2. I'm definitely not going to miss Web 3. So that's me done.
And with that, thank you very much to our panelists and to everyone here. It's the end of the day. Have a drink. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice. Please be seated. And thank you, Jorgen, Warren, and Richard. Yeah, I remember his name. Don't worry. So do we have any questions from our floor? We can ask our panelists to answer them. Oh, they left already, but it's okay. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you of the new project of the Mills Fabrica. It's called Reinventing the Future of Jeans. So if you're interested, please don't hesitate to let us know by scanning the QR code and filling in the Google form so that you can leave your contact details. We will reach out to you so that we can share the latest news, and you'll be the first to be notified when there's the release. Ladies and gentlemen, all panel discussions and keynote presentations on day one of Denim Futures Conference and Showcase have come to an end. Thank you once again for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it. You may take this time to take a look at the showcase area at the back. Feel free to mingle with each other, connect with each other, and find future collaboration opportunities. We will be hosting even more exciting and thought-provoking sections tomorrow, so remember to come back. Thank you once again for coming, and I'll see you tomorrow.